couple more coming in. Okay. Just a few more on their way.
That's okay. I'm a little late.
I know. No stress at all. Okay. Jim, great to have you back here with us in the media centre. You've just come out from practice. The guys have seen all 18 holes here at Le Golf National. How's everyone feeling?
You know, I think everyone's still getting their feet under them. Yesterday's the first day after a long flight, a little jet lag. You know, trying to hit some solid shots. I think, you know, anxious to see the golf course. I think the guys were very complimentary. Golf course is in impeccable condition. JT said he thought the golf course was in great shape in the French Open. He says, I think it's even better now. So everyone was very complimentary, enjoyed the course, but no, you know, we know it's a lot of work. Just saw it for one time, and they're out there grinding right now in the back nine, trying to learn more about the golf course. We have some of the pin locations, tees are in the ground, and you know, they're discussing how they want to try to attack the golf course.
Sure. We'll open it up to questions. Mic 1 just there.
Jim, Phil was saying yesterday that him and Tiger would welcome the opportunity to reunite their pairing from 2004. How would you feel about dusting down Hal Sutton's 10-gallon hat and giving it another go?
Dusting down, what was the?
Hal Sutton's 10-gallon hat.
Dusting down Hal Sutton's 10-gallon hat. Wow. I mean, I guess nothing's out of the realm. They did play some golf yesterday. I think they both mentioned that it would be a lot better pairing than it was in the past. I'm not really from Texas, so we don't wear a lot of 10-gallon hats in Pennsylvania. But you know, I won't ever say it couldn't happen, but it's probably not too likely.
Mic 3. It's just, yeah, go there.
You've got a lot of players who obviously have accomplished a lot of things individually, and they work on their own to get ready for these tournaments. And now you come to a situation here where you all are working together and you're talking and whatnot. How do you balance how much information and how much input you're trying to give to them that allow them to play their best when ordinarily they're probably just working on their own? Like, is it difficult for them to now be getting all this input from different players and yourself and whatnot, and trying to create a plan compared to what they do on a every week basis?
No, I don't think so. I think I always, from a personal standpoint, I enjoyed these practice rounds. I enjoyed being surrounded by 11 of the best players in the United States, and I felt like I learned so much about the process and the sharing. So it's not like you get overloaded by information. It's a trading of ideas and thoughts and how each and every one of us looks at things. And I felt by playing with, whether it was technique on short shots or ways to play the golf course or how certain folks trained or learned about a golf course versus others, I always felt like I picked up these tidbits that I could carry with me in the future. So I never liked Tuesday practice rounds on tour. It seemed to usually be my grouchiest on Tuesday. I always actually really enjoyed the practice rounds and the learning process and the sharing of information. It's definitely not an overload for these guys. I think it's actually they have a lot of fun, and you know, you're starting to get used to your partners and your pairings, and you start talking about how you read putts, and are you very linear? Do you see curved lines? Are we going to talk about with our caddies amongst ourselves? You start formulating all those plans, and you get a lot of that work in early. You know, really what I've tried to do for them this week was provide them as much information about the golf course as I could before they arrived. You know, whatever I could get to them about this course, especially in their week off before the Tour Championship for most of them. I wanted them to understand what they were going to face. There would be no surprises when they arrived. It's a tight golf course. Here's what you can expect. I gave them as much info as I could, but they're all professionals, and they're all going to learn the golf course and prepare for it in their own way. And I want them to do that as well.
Staying on mic 3.
Jim, you said you guys have hole locations and tee placements. Are those for the actual competition days?
Yes. We've, I think it's been mentioned in one of the press conferences before, we were given yesterday pin sheet with 5 hole locations on it. We don't know which days they'll be used, but we have, and I guess it may not, if it says 10 and 4, I guess it could be a yard off, but it's really generally in that area, unless there was some inclement weather, flooding, where they need to go to higher ground. Both teams, Ryder Cup Europe, wanted to provide that information and felt that that was important for the future as well.
And how would you characterize the reaction of the guys to the setup with the rough and kind of the sense that they had those who came for the scouting trip that it might be a pretty conservative approach? Is that sense still the case?
Yeah, we had 6 guys that had played the golf course. We had guys here in July playing it. They've relayed some of that information. For some of the guys that hadn't played the golf course, I had a couple that walked up to me yesterday and said, wow, you said it was going to be tight. It sure is. But generally, they were prepared. They knew what to expect, and it wasn't like it slapped them in the face all of a sudden, where you show up sometimes to an event, across the pond, or to maybe an event when I've gone to foreign tours and played, and you have no idea what you're getting into before you get there, and you go, oh wow, this is hilly, or this is this or that, or the greens are. I remember the first time I went to Japan and played on Korai, I was definitely thrown back. I didn't understand the surface and how to play it. So they were prepared. They knew what to expect here, but it's always going to be different. You try to paint a picture, and that's why we have these 3 days to prepare. And I'm still on the same plan that they're professionals. They prepare themselves on a weekly basis. They're the best we have to offer in the United States. They're going to prepare their games, and I prided myself in the heart of my career of being one of the most prepared players on tour. I gave them, as much information as I could, but I want them to have that freedom to prepare and do things their own way here.
Mike 4, just behind.
Jim, I know you said there's not going to be a 25 banner hanging in the team room, but having been a member of the teams that have tried to win over in Europe for the last 25 years, can you talk to the challenges of trying to do it?
Yes, I can. I think, again, I'll praise both the European Tour and the way they choose golf courses at venues where they have European Tour events. I'll praise their teams for how they've played and how organized they've been as a unit. We're coming into a golf course that they know a lot better than we do, that will be set up in a fashion that they think suits their game. Those are obstacles we have to overcome. Their crowd is phenomenal. They make a lot of noise. When we walk into that first tee and they announce both teams, they're going to say, from the United States, announce 2 guys, and there's going to be a nice applause. And when they announce the 2 folks from Europe, there's going to be a giant roar. And those players are going to feel that presence. And you're going to hear those roars around the golf course. And, when you're a player, you know exactly. A putt goes in and you hear a roar, you know. Every one of us knows whether it's from the U.S. or whether it's from Europe, right? And so their crowd plays into a big part of that as well. We know that. We respect that. There's definitely some obstacles to overcome. But that group out there is feisty and confident, and right now they're preparing. They're trying to do the best they can to brace themselves and get ready for the battle.
Mike 2, just over here.
Jim, that said, you won well last time. I think it's fair to say you've got some pretty self-confident guys in your team. Are you having to guard at any point against complacency in your team room?
I don't think there's any worry. I mean, we've discussed. We sat down and had a great conversation with the players last night. The players spoke a lot. They're very well aware of the history of this event. They're very well aware of the talent and the pride on the other side, and they love this event every bit as much as I do. So there's not a worry on my end of any overconfidence, complacency. No one's putting the cart before the horse here. We realize the task at hand, and I also think they'll really embrace that challenge.
We go to Mike 1, please.
Yeah, the European players have made a lot of creating the right atmosphere in terms of they enjoy, taking the mickey out of each other. They say they're leaving their egos at the door, and they do a lot. They bring in a comedian, all that sort of stuff. I wonder if you could talk a bit about how you go about creating the right culture in your team room, and what the atmosphere is like at the moment.
I think the atmosphere has been good. I think guys are fun. Yesterday, the question was asked about how you go about bringing this group together. And I guess we have a lot of the same core guys on this team that have played on these teams in the past. I think we're bringing Bryson and Tony into a team room of guys that have already been here before, that, played for Davis Love, played for Steve Stricker last year. We kind of have a pretty good rhythm of how we run our team room and what guys can expect. And I think it's my job to continue that atmosphere, to continue what we've worked on the last 4 years. We're always trying to add, trying to improve. And I guess if you're the number one player in the world, you're never trying to hold still, right? You're trying to always improve and get better. And that's, with Davis's help and Steve's help and Tiger's help and all the vice captains, we're trying to improve on a process we've had together. But this group of players has been fun. They've been unique. They've been extremely easy to work with. I'm taking basically a system in place and trying to continue and grow it.
Just mic 3 at the front.
Hey, Jim. With regard to the pairings, can you discuss, in your opinion, how important it is putting certain guys together? And because all these guys are so accomplished already, do we make too much of a big deal out of that? Or do you feel like anybody can be with anybody?
No, I wouldn't say that anybody could be with anybody on both sides. And that could be, it's not that guys don't get along. I think that's always the look, like, well, maybe these two don't get along. I think it's just, it could be personalities. I mean, rarely do you see two really fiery guys paired together, or two real complacent guys paired together. And complacent's a bad word. Two real stone, Bernhard Langer and Bernhard Langer. I mean, one of my favorite guys, but you might not pair him together with himself because, there's just even keel. You'd pair him with a guy that was feisty, a Sevi. And you kind of get the ham and egg effect of things. I think it's important. I think one of the tasks for every captain and the vice captains is really trying to figure out not only your best pairing, but how you get your best 4, your best 5, your best 6. How do you work together and make a strength and depth of strength throughout your team, so you feel like at each session you have 4 great groups out on the golf course. That's what both of us are trying to do.
If I could just
Yeah.
just quickly, do you rely personally more on feel or more analytic stuff?
I would say a combination. Ultimately, I mean, we have the analytics team in place, and they have opinions on why guys match up well together from a statistics standpoint. But we really need to, as a captain, understand the personality side and how guys mesh together and why that happens. I think it's a combination of both. But I've got a lot of experience on my side with our vice captains, and Davis and Strick, that have done this with a lot of these same guys the last couple of years. And you had Cooch and Zach who have played in these, and David has watched these guys now and analyzed their games from a television perspective. So I've got a lot of guys that were world-class players themselves, played on a significant number of these teams, understand the inner workings, and there's a lot of feel that goes into it as well, and I really trust and believe in their opinions.
Just mic 4 at the back.
Jim, a question about course setup. The conventional
You weren't even going to come in. Now you're asking questions.
I can't help myself.
All right.
So the conventional wisdom had always been that the home team captain has the advantage with course setup. But I wonder, with all the international players from Europe playing in the United States, players from the United States playing internationally, if you set up a course, let's say, to take the long ball away from Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, don't you do the same thing for Rory McIlroy? Is there really an advantage anymore that's team-specific, and isn't it really just person-specific?
You would have to break down team for team and how many players on each side. I mean, being a short straight hitter, I always liked when I got on a golf course like this and felt like, well, wow, it doesn't matter how far you hit it, we're all going to play from the same spot. Could you break it down? Yeah, I'm imagining that you would want to figure out what you thought may suit your team the best. Again, I'll go back to, in the States, we usually play major championship venues at the Ryder Cup, places that neither team has really seen that often, or if they have, a lot of them have seen it at a PGA Championship or a U.S. Open or something of that aspect. Here, you have the French Open. A number of these players have played this tournament and played it a lot, so there comes a home course advantage with that. I would imagine, and it seems rightfully so, it's not that far different than how they play the French Open, and I wouldn't expect it coming in it would be, because that's how these players know this golf course, and they've had a lot of success, some of them on this golf course, so I expected it to be set up somewhat similar, although we're at the end of September rather than July. The weather's different, the course will be slightly different, but it's similar to what they've seen in the French Open, and they know the golf course well because of that.
Just Mike 2, please.
Jim, this is the third straight year where you've been on a team that has Brooks Koepka on it. I'm just curious, as you've built a relationship with him, what have you learned about him and what makes him tick?
Brooks loves the team atmosphere, loves being part of the group of guys. I felt like he's really thrived in that. He likes partners that bring some energy, that kind of mix up well with him. Brant Snedeker was a wonderful partner 2 years ago. I guess what I've enjoyed is, a guy that's gone out and won 2 majors this year. I felt bad for him early in the year. He started out the year injured, right at the top of the Ryder Cup's points list, and he started sliding down. He got all the way down to about 7th or 8th before he came back out, and it was nice to see him. I mean, as soon as he got back out on tour, he kind of hit the ground running. It didn't take long to get his legs under him, start playing solid, and then he goes on to win 2 major championships. And honestly, you get a player like that who is one of our most successful guys the last few years, and yet he's telling the captain, he's a team player and he'll do whatever he wants, and just a guy that really, fun for me to get to know. 5 years ago, I didn't know Brooks at all, and now I feel like I've got a nice relationship with him and can talk to him about a lot of different things, whether it be a Ryder Cup or not. So I've enjoyed that, and that's one of the great aspects of being 46, 7, 8, not making these teams anymore, but still being a part of it. And I hate saying it, but hanging out with these players that are a generation younger. That generation word's killing me, but it's true.
Just Mike 1, please.
Hi, Jim. I believe there was a suggestion on TV this morning that Tiger perhaps looked a little stiff on his way to the team photo shoots. Is there anything there to concern you, or is that just a chilly morning and before any warm-up?
I don't think that there was any issues. I was a little stiff on the way to the range too this morning. It was, I don't know, it was about 42 degrees, and I watched him play a few holes. He doesn't look stiff at all. So I think it's probably just some folks maybe guessing, or he's probably stretching, probably trying to stay loose. But there's been no issues reported out there or anything that I'm worried about.
Just Mike 3.
It's actually news to me right there, to be honest with you.
Jim, much was made of Jordan missing the Tour Championship. I'm curious, what's your assessment of where he is now, and is there any sense that he may benefit from a fresh partnership to give him a spark?
I love where Jordan is actually right now. We talked a little bit on his week off and during the Tour Championship. One, he brings so much to the team room as a leader. For his age, he's very mature, and all those guys kind of in his age group, when Jordan speaks, everyone seems to listen, and he's been a great guy in our team room, helped out a lot, and we discussed it. I mean, I think having a week off, having some fresh legs, a fresh mind, and I would guess he's, little, he's probably chomping at the bit right now, finishing 31st and being that first guy out. He's probably ready to go this week, and I think it'd be a real good week for him.
It's time for 2 more, so Mike 1, please.
How would you describe Tony's personality?
Infectious. He's got a smile. One of those guys that I think it doesn't matter who you are in the team, how well you know him, don't know him. He's just very approachable. guy that, there's as a captain when you're calling guys to say, you're on the Ryder Cup team. That was probably, well, it happened solo, but it was a great call and it was a lot of fun. I hung up the phone. I looked at my wife and I was like, now that's a great phone call. I mean, he's just so excited to represent his country and be a part of this team, and you could hear it in the voice over the phone. He deserved it, and he played so well. But as far as he's a guy that comes from team sports as well, coming from a basketball player and had the opportunity to play college basketball. Super talented and athletic, but I think he brings a lot for a first-time player at the Ryder Cup. He brings a lot to the team room, just with an infectious personality, and I mean, it would be hard. I can't imagine anyone saying a bad word about Tony Finau. I mean, I think you'd have a problem if you did. So great guy.
Just a very quick follow. A personality like that, does that expand the number of partnerships he could have, or is there?
Yeah, I think for
as a rookie,
you probably don't usually see a guy that is playing in his first team event where you go, wow. And also kind of coming in late, as the last player picked, you wouldn't imagine a guy that would be so easy to pair up with a number of different people. But I immediately saw that kind of, shuffle and pairings and looking around and trying to plan leading up to this event. He definitely has that ability, not only from a personality standpoint, but also a style of play and his game.
And final question, Mike 2, please.
Jim, how much does analysis of stats and data come into deciding your pairings, or is it more done on feel and instinct?
Sorry, again, I think it's a little of both. I mean, I think that we do have a statistics-based look at things. We have a feel-based look at things, a personality-based look at things. I've got eyes on the golf course right now, 5 vice captains, just kind of getting a feel for everyone's mood, mannerisms, body language, what they see from a ball striking perspective. I also let these guys know they're not trying out in practice rounds. It's not like every time they hit a shot slightly off the center of the face and maybe hit one in the rough off the tee. It's like, all right, you're out. You're not going to play on Friday. I want these guys to learn the golf course and kick off the dust with the jet lag. And we look at it from a number of different perspectives. And I think one of the strengths we've had too is originally it was thought that maybe having the President's Cup in opposite years was a bad thing. Like these guys were going to get tired. I mean, they enjoy this event and they enjoy that event and enjoy being together in the team room, but it's helped us kind of navigate pairings and put our players together in an efficient way, and Europe kind of has the same thing in their off years as well. So I think it's beneficial for both captains to have those events.
Great. Jim, thank you for your time.
Thank you.